We are back at the S.H.I.T.S podcast. Yep.
Yo.
And like I told y'all before, we are now on the line, our very, very, very special guest to the podcast. We have checked out their podcast. We've checked out their website, and they have some very, very, very interesting thoughts and ideas. And we're just honored to have them on our podcast. Give it up for my man Dave from the Flat Earth Podcast.
Yo, what's going on, man?
What's going on, Dave?
Thanks for having me, man. Thanks.
No problem. Thank you for coming on, bro. Thank you for coming on.
Definitely.
So, but before we get into anything, man, we do want to do a kind of like a check in with you, man, because that's kind of like our thing on the show. How was your week, bro?
Sure. Week is amazing. I'm doing about 20, 25 interviews a week, so this was a rough one for me. But I love what I do. I love talking about this. I love talking to open-minded people and changing the way they see the world. So my week has been awesome.
Awesome.
Damn,
awesome.
That's good, man.
Okay. So with that being said, my first question to you is, when did you begin to change your thoughts about the earth? Just the shape. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I did a podcast. I did a conspiracy podcast in New York City called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole.
Okay.
And we looked into all sorts of things. And then people started sending me, hey, Dave, have you looked into Flat Earth? They started posting stuff on our Facebook videos. And I would just delete. I started banning people from our social media because they're too stupid to listen to our podcast. They're talking about the earth being flat. That's ridiculous.
Right.
But then another researcher who I trust very much, who's done some amazing work, said, Dave, I think the earth might be flat. And I'm like, not you too, Sophia. And she's like, yeah, watch this video.
Okay.
And I said, all right, let me watch it. And I watch it, and I'm like, that's interesting, but he's got it wrong. And I'm going to prove the earth is a globe, and I'm going to disprove flat earth. That's a closed mind I went in with.
Okay.
And 2 weeks later, I came out the other side and it was almost zero sleep. I'm like, holy crap, everything's a lie. And that's when my world changed. And real quick, I'll finish the story up. I had the American dream. I still have the American dream. I worked in corporate America. I started my own company with a couple partners. We were doing really well, making more money than I ever thought I could make. And then all of a sudden, something told me, walk away from it all and do this, send this flat earth message out. This message is the most important message because it's not the shape of the earth that matters. It's the lie that matters.
Oh. There it is. There it is.
Okay.
That's what I was waiting on. What I was waiting on.
Okay.
The theory behind why is the earth flat? The first thing I thought of, man, was growing up, being in history or maybe geography or whatever you learned about the earth first. 5th grade, 6th grade, what did they bring in class? But they always had the maps on the wall, but the globe was the most interesting thing in the world, right? You had to go up there and point out certain places, you got assignments, and it was just really cool to see.
Your worksheet. The worksheet that you take home is in 1st grade are about where does the moon goes around the earth and the earth goes around the sun.
Right.
An astronaut, it's all programming to put your mind in a prison, and that prison is the globe.
Wow. Okay. So we hear about conspiracies all the time. So we hear about the conspiracy about how JFK was killed. I remember reading about the magic bullet that killed JFK and actually at some point believing it. You know what I'm saying? We also hear about the conspiracies about who killed Martin Luther King. So my question is, why the conspiracy to keep the masses believing that the earth is round? Why?
I'll answer that, but let me quickly tell people what the flat earth isn't and what flat earth, what all globers, you guys are globers, or most people are, have in common. And first thing is, we're not a pancake floating in space with a bunch of other pancakes or even ball of globes. Okay. We're not in space. Space doesn't exist. The flat earth is the basement of the universe, is the best way I could describe it. And everything we see in the sky is within the earth system, not the solar system.
Right.
So the other thing is that they all have in common is they don't understand what the heliocentric model is, because if they did, they would be like, wait a minute, that's ridiculous. In the helio globe model, we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. That means when you're watching the sunset, you're falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound, which makes the sun appear to go down.
Okay.
That's insanity. While that's going on, you're orbiting the sun at 66,600 miles an hour. Interesting number. We're chasing the sun at 666,000 miles an hour. And that entire system's moving sideways at 1.2 million miles an hour, give or take. And somehow all of the stars always remain the same every year. Like you go out tonight, mark where the stars are at a certain time. Next year, same night, same time. Those stars will be in the exact same position, even though we've traveled billions of miles, corkscrewing through an infinite universe. So why the lie? Let me answer that. If they can convince you to live in fear and believe that you came from nothing exploded, created everything, then all of the rocks and dirt coalesced into spinning balls, and all of the gases coalesced into spinning suns and stars, and left a vacuum in between, which is totally impossible. And then lightning struck and created an amoeba that turned into a fish that grew legs that turned into a monkey that turned into a human, and that you're on a speck of dust flying through an infinite universe in a godless or distant God universe, then you can be convinced of anything. Where an asteroid could take you out. There's always living in fear. Think about this. You go to school, little kids. What's one of the first things they teach kids about? Dinosaurs. What took out the dinosaurs? An asteroid. What does that do to a kid's feeling of safety, right? His core belief is an asteroid could take us out at any time. Yeah. So that puts their core in fear. Mm-hmm. And fear is how they control us. FDR said the only thing to fear is fear itself. Mm-hmm. And that is the ultimate truth. So if you live in a world of fear where all of these things could happen, there's so many things. Everything that you're afraid of, everything you hear on the news, it's all fear. That's to make you to give up your power to authority. The only authority that the government has over you is what you believe that they have over you. Mm-hmm. It's like money. The only thing a dollar bill is good for is lighting a fire, okay? Unless someone's willing to trade you something for it, right, okay? Yeah,
that's true.
Right? If someone's willing to trade you something, then it has perceived value. It's the same thing with authority. They're not allowed, to have any authority over us. So you can either believe that you live in this distant, godless, or distant God spinning out of control universe, or the truth is, we are at the center of creation. We are here, powerful spiritual beings having experience, expanding the mind of God, and nobody has dominion over us. And we only have a couple of basic rules. Don't kill anybody, don't steal from anybody, don't break their free will, and help your neighbor. That's it, right? And if we all united like that, it'd be nothing.
Yeah, that was dope.
So we are the many, they are the nothing.
Two questions, man. Two questions. I got to jump in because you hitting on some shit that about 4 years ago, I just woke up one day and said, I'm not believing anything. To believe is to believe a lie.
Belief is the enemy of knowing.
That's it. And television is tell lies through vision. So it's like once you kind of wake up, you know what I mean? You find out that pretty much everything you just said was taught to us in school growing up. So all of our lives were basically like hoodwinked, basically. You know what I mean? Until you get older, in your 30s and 40s, it's like, okay, my question for you, the Bermuda Triangle. What's your take on the Bermuda Triangle and all the incidents that have surrounded the Bermuda Triangle?
So most of those incidents are just stories to make you afraid to go in the Bermuda Triangle. What is right next to the Bermuda Triangle? What launches out and goes over the Bermuda Triangle? all of the fake space flights, NASA, SpaceX, they're launching those rockets that go out over the Bermuda Triangle and they crash in the water and they show us a cartoon of something going into space. Wow. It is restricted waters where they're faking space. Nobody has ever launched a person in a rocket. It's all fake, and we can prove it.
Wow.
That's a lot, right?
Wow.
So how? So I mean, and I only say this for the people, for our listeners. How can you prove it?
So if I showed you, the International Fake Station, I call it, that if I showed you that they're hanging flyers faking zero gravity, you can unwind that all the way to we never went to the moon. If I show you, if you actually think and use science about the thrust of an engine, what it should do. Where are you guys located?
Chicago.
Chicago. So you ever been in a you haven't been in a hurricane? The hurricanes don't go to
No,
Chicago.
no,
You ever been
in
so a hurricane, 150 mile an hour wind, devastating. 175 mile an hour wind, absolutely devastating. It'll rip houses off their foundation.
Right.
A tornado, 300 mile an hour wind will pulverize trees into toothpicks. Will pull cement out of the ground. That's 300 miles an hour of room temperature wind. A rocket thrust is coming out at superheated at thousands of degrees, right? And it's coming out at 17,000 miles an hour or faster. And there's little fences surrounding them that don't even wiggle.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you look at these rockets, here's the thing. This one is going to make your listeners absolutely melt down. Most of the rockets, they use all different techniques. They use miniatures, they use CGI, they project holograms into the sky. We've caught them with their projectors on the lawn, right? Because we found these things, through Google Earth, and we're looking around and we're like, what is this light? It's a spotlight, and we actually could see the label. And we looked at the label and we looked it up online. We got like a patent number or something, and it was holographic projector.
Wow.
Okay, and we caught them.
Wow.
The rockets glitch out. There's like problems with the launches.
Yeah.
And we have all of these videos and stuff. But again, we catch them faking space. We catch them just doing all of these things again and again and again. We catch them all of the time. And there's all these different techniques that they use. But trying to find this stuff, if you Google top 10 reasons that the Earth is flat, Google's going to deliver you top 10 reasons that the Earth is a globe, and they're going to go Sticks and Shadows by Aristophanes, the tides and sunsets over the ocean, and seasons. You look at these things, and without being gate-kept, you'll see that they only work on a flat Earth. Amazingly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold that thought for 1 second. We're coming right back with Dave from the Flat Earth Podcast. It's the shits. Tune in every Friday to the Block Radio, www.theblock105.com, and listen to the Shits Podcast, 8 a.m. every Friday. It's the shits. All right, we are back at the Shits Podcast, and we are continuing our in-depth interview with the Flat Earth Podcast. And
you know what this is? This is Sunday school.
It's mind blowing.
I'm labeling this episode Sunday school because we are going to learn more today. I've learned more today than I probably have watching 2 episodes of National Geographic. Okay, part 2 of my theory, Buster. I want you to bust these theories for me. What is your perception of aliens, and do you think it is other life sources outside of this America, this United States, this world that we know?
You guys sitting, because this one's going to blow your mind.
We sitting down for sure. I need a seatbelt around this motherfucker. Wait a minute, let me find something to hold on to.
So earlier I said that we're not a disc floating in space. So what are we? So I said the Earth system is the foundation of the universe. So what is a puddle? A puddle is where water accumulates in the low spot in the land, and the edge of the puddle is just where the water is higher than the level. I mean, the land is higher than the water, right?
All right.
That contains the water. So a pond is a bigger puddle. A lake is a bigger pond. So think of all of the world's oceans as a giant lake. All of the continents are islands, and they're all surrounded by water, just as we know. Mm-hmm. But the water is surrounded by a shoreline. Land, a giant. We're in this giant basin, and that land is the highest land on Earth. Antarctica is the highest land on Earth. Mm-hmm. Right? It's the shoreline of the world pond. All of the oceans lay flat. Large bodies of water at rest lay flat, measurably, testably, scientifically, provably flat. And the shoreline is Antarctica. So what's beyond Antarctica? Well, guess what? 1959, the Antarctic Treaty came into effect, and all the countries in the world signed on and said, nobody can go to Antarctica. You can't drop a cigarette butt there. We have to protect the ice and the penguins. But meanwhile, go ahead, deforest the Amazon. That's fine, right? But and that treaty cannot even be questioned until the year 2041. Okay. You could spend $10,000 to $30,000 to go to Antarctica for 3 days. They'll take you to this little peninsula. They'll show you some penguins and some ice, and they'll bring you to a ceremonial South Pole. But it's not a South Pole because there is no South Pole. Oh. And then they kick you out, and that's it. So what is beyond Antarctica in the outer space beyond Antarctica? Not outer space in the sky, the outer space. Mm-hmm. Well, what if you kept going for a couple thousand miles across Antarctica, mm-hmm. and then there was another ocean and other extra territory? Mm-hmm. So if there was extra territory out there, what's a short way to say that? Extraterra.
Right.
Extraterrestrial come from the outer space beyond Antarctica across the Earth plane. So if an alien wanted to come here and, anally rape somebody, they can do it and get back for dinner.
Wow.
Right?
That's an interesting way to put it, though. Right.
So
I'm just trying to get your attention.
So how do you think we have obtained this image of the Earth? Like, where did it come from? Like, this the whole globe or whatever. Like, who's responsible for it?
So here's the thing. You ever hear of Tartaria and the mud floods? You know about that at all?
Not too familiar with it. Elaborate.
Tartaria, it was a worldwide advanced civilization here as early as up through the 1800s. The whole story of our history, it's all lies. And it was an advanced civilization. Their buildings are still here. We just don't recognize them. There's these buildings that supposedly, people with, horse and buggies built, and we can't build these buildings with our biggest cranes, today. So there was a cataclysm that happened in the late 1800s. I think, maybe mid 1800s, maybe late 1800s, whatever it was. And then the people that came out of that, the people that took over, they're the ones that decided to keep the masses in the dark. They know the truth of our world, so they put us in this prison, and the prison is the heliocentric soul lure system. Okay. So they like, if they told you there was a fence around you, all we want to do is get to the other side of that fence. So they put us on a ball. Okay. And so there's nothing else to explore. Remember, there's nothing else to explore, Truman. You can't be an explorer. This is the whole world. And they have us in an invisible jail, and they have us working as slaves. It's all about control. Money is fake.
That's right.
Control is in our mind.
Yep.
And they don't want us to know that, we are divine. This is how I see it. That's the way I describe it is we have a soul. We probably have a group of souls, but our main soul is the spark of God within us. And we are here in this realm, expanding the mind of God, having this amazing experience in this amusement park. Mm-hmm. And our goal here is to maintain control of our souls. Our souls are like the currency of this world, and there's people that want your soul, evil people that want to steal your soul and would try to get you to sell your soul for whatever, for riches and fame. And once you do that, you're screwed. So your goal here is to maintain control of your soul in this amazing world. It's truly amazing.
Deep. That was deep, man.
Yeah,
that was rather deep.
So let me ask you this: Do you think there's a particular science or method to get people to believe something? Like with everything that you have read, with everything that you have researched, do you think there's a particular science to it that has been like damn near foolproof?
You're breaking up a little bit. A science that can prove the Earth is flat? Is that what you're asking?
No. I said, do you think there's a particular science or method that can get people to believe something? Whether it's believing that Jesus is coming out the sky, whether it's believing that the Earth is round, whether it's believing that the Earth is flat. Do you think there is a particular science or method that is used or being used to get people to believe something?
Well, you can get someone to believe something by tricking them, by presenting, evidence in a way, or what they call evidence, just convincing them, because people want to believe. We start out as trusting souls, right. And we imagine if you didn't have to ever worry about anyone lying to you. Well, belief is really easy. But, I told you I'm in Connecticut. Am I really in Connecticut?
Right.
Am I really? Have you verified that?
Right.
But you believe me because I sound believable. Right?
Right.
So belief is the enemy of knowing. Here's the thing. You believe you live on a spinning globe because you were told by a lying guy in a bow tie. Right? And the truth is we can see too far. You can't have a vacuum next to high pressure without a physical barrier. All of these motions of the Earth, every test that has done them, there's many scientists over the last 100 years or more that have tested for axial rotation and curvature, and they've all failed. They all prove the opposite. All of the FAA documents say treat the Earth as a flat, non-rotating plane. Airplanes fly straight and level over an Earth plane. They're not air globes, they're airplanes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you look at the science of flying, how does an airplane that takes off in Alaska land on a north-south runway in Ecuador that's moving sideways at 1,000 miles an hour?
Oh, wow.
Okay?
Yeah.
Once you start looking at these things, it's like you can't believe that you ever fell for this. But they convinced us before we can talk that the Earth is a ball. Sesame Street has planets, and the Yip Yaps talk about the moon and Mars, and NASA with all of their nonsense. And
NASA, yeah.
all of the television shows, the cartoons, they're all about globes. And it's once you understand, next time you guys see a globe in a store or at someone's house, pick it up, look at the bottom, and there's a sticker on it that says, not for educational purposes, for decorative purposes only.
What?
Come on.
Wait. Repeat that.
Come on.
Every globe. So if you're in a store where there's globes, just read the bottom of the globe. There's a sticker that says not for educational purposes, for decorative purposes only.
God damn.
That's a disclaimer because the globe is a friggin' lie.
God damn.
Here, let me explain. This is the number one argument people have: circumnavigation. You could leave New York heading east and end up back in New York again. Okay, so think of the flat Earth as this big giant pond. Just think of the UN logo. That's the flat Earth map. It is. The UN logo is the flat Earth map. At the center of the pond is a magnetic mountain, and all compasses will point to that mountain. Okay, so you can do this with a compass and a magnet on a table, or you can just figure it out. Like point to a pole in the center of the room, and your hand is pointing north. Well, 90 degrees is east. To that, if you start going east, you have to keep turning to the left to maintain that heading because the needle will keep turning. It has to point towards the center. So east and west are circles around the center. Now, this does not prove the Earth is flat because it's the same on a ball. East and west are circles around a center point. Get a magnet, get a compass, put it down so the compass is pointing towards the magnet, and then try to push that compass east. You have to keep turning to the left. So if you push it west, you have to keep turning to the right, and then you end up right back to where you were. You didn't circle around a ball. You went around the lake. That's it. Here's what you can't do on a flat Earth. You can't go south. Like on the lower side of the ball on the other side, and guess what? Nobody has ever done it. No one's ever done it. There's a couple stories about people that said they did it, but when you look at the details, it's complete nonsense.
Wow.
Utter nonsense. Yeah.
So
hey, let me tell you guys, people that are listening, and for you guys, if you try to Google flat Earth, you end up at the Flat Earth Society. You end up with disinformation. Because this is the number one secret. I mean, they talked about it at a congressional hearing about censorship. That they even brought up flat Earth at this session. This was like a year or so ago. That they're gonna hide flat Earth information. They're gonna depromote it, and they're gonna do any flat Earth video has a little box underneath it. This flat Earth is an ancient concept. It's not an ancient concept. Everyone in the early 1900s knew the Earth was flat. But I created an app that bypasses all of this algorithms. It's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And with the censorship, they're hiding it also. It's hard to find on Android. But if you look for it, Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app by Blue Water Bay. And it's on Apple also. You need an iPhone 6 or better, and Android, you need Android 8.0 or higher. And it has every day, there's a featured video on it, and I have a Bitcoin reward. Watch the video every day for 2 weeks, short ones during the week, longer ones on the weekend. And at the end of that 2 weeks, if you think that the Earth is still a globe and you can provide me one proof, I'll give you a Bitcoin. But before you do it, you have to click the frequently asked question buttons, and the top 21 questions that you're going to have are there with full playlist of videos that was stuff that you can verify yourself. Unlike NASA, you can't verify anything they do. You can verify it yourself. And the app is $3. I'm not here to sell apps. I'm telling you, I walked away from my career to do this, and that's how I support myself. But just read the reviews on the app if you're concerned that it's not worth it. It's probably the highest rated app with the best reviews in the entire App Store.
Wow.
So I checked out the website. Don't you have that on your website as well?
If you go to the flatearthpodcast.com, the link is right up on the homepage right there. Click it, or you can scan it with your phone. It brings you right to your phone. And that's probably the best way to find it. Thank you for reminding me of that. And there's also an instructional video there that show you how the app works. It's pretty cool.
So I know we don't have too much time left, but I do want to ask you this because I have my own opinion on it, but I want to get yours. The whole opening up after the pandemic and so I know in Illinois they're saying people who are vaccinated, fully vaccinated, can gather inside with other people that are fully vaccinated without a mask. What is your thoughts on that?
If you guys offered me $50 billion to get the vaccine, I would say no.
Facts.
There's my thoughts.
Me too.
That vaccine is, they're trying to depopulate the world, and this literally could be their last play.
Yeah.
If you look back in 1920, we had the Spanish flu, and everybody was wearing masks and getting vaccinated, and there was a massive die-off. Fauci even wrote a paper that the number one reason people died back then is from bacterial pneumonia. Okay, not viral pneumonia, bacterial pneumonia, which is caused by wearing a disgusting face diaper. In 1820, there was cholera. In 1720, there was the plague. Mm-hmm. Every 100 years, they do the same baloney. Every 100 years. Here we go again. The Great Reset, my friends.
Wow.
They're gonna offer student loan forgiveness. They're gonna do everything. Free. Travel, airline flights are $50, but you can't fly unless you have a vaccine.
Right.
They're gonna do everything they can to get you to take the vaccine, and I wouldn't do it for $50 billion. $51 billion, I consider it.
I say one more.
Wow. Dave, thank you so very much, man, for coming on to the podcast. Like my man Bubba Ball said, this feels like Sunday school, right?
Hey, Dave, this is Sunday school. I want to shout you out, man. I took 2 pictures off of the Flat Earth podcast. One was where you had the sheep. Everybody was pointing fingers at 3 people on the other side, and all it said was analyzing facts. And the other one was the 911 debacle where it had the steel and the jet fuel next to it. And it was like, wow, man, this dude is on his shit, man. I thank you for coming on, man. Hey, I congratulate you. I also commend you for what you're doing. It's hard. I tell people all the time, it's hard when you take the red pill instead of the blue pill that everybody else is taking, and you cannot undo what you learn. That's one thing about life. Once you know something, you will never believe anything in the world, man. So I congratulate you. I commend you, man, and keep pushing.
It's like Neo in the Matrix. At the beginning, he is separated from his soul's journey. His mind is trapped in the Matrix, in the prison. And by the end of the movie, he figures out who he is, where he is, what he is, and the power of his mind. And he takes his life back. That is a perfect analogy of what's going on in this world. People are so spinning out of control, lost in space, that they believe that if you get within 6 feet of a healthy person, you're going to die. That's insanity.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Well, Dave, thank you so much for your time, man. Thank you so much. Much luck for you. Much luck and success to you in the future. Keep doing what you're doing, man, because it's something that needs to be heard, man. It's definitely something that needs to be heard.
Truth is always welcome on this show, bro, and I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you for coming on, making time out your day for this.
Thanks, man.
Have a good one, Dave.